Hello everyone, this is Chase for Boy, your boy, and this was not a planned video, but I was looking through some of my drawings on Procreate and I found this interesting setting where you can actually export a time lapse of any of your drawings, which is something it just sort of automatically saves. So I felt this would be an interesting opportunity to look through some of my drawings and see my drawing process and just sort of show you guys how I illustrate and see if it would be beneficial to some newer artists who wanted to get into digital drawing as well. And I'll show you what we're going to be looking at today. You might be wondering, wow, this looks incredibly detailed. I would never be able to do anything like this myself. Well, you'd be wrong actually. It's not that hard. Final image, let's go. So you'll notice I just start out with drawing this really ugly sketch. That's pretty much how every artist starts out. I know very few artists who are able to just jump straight into the final line work. A lot of beginner artists are frustrated at perhaps their inability to draw, and what they really don't understand is that they really should just be messing around with very loose shapes at first, because nobody just jumps into drawing final lines. We do a whole lot of what is called constructing, where we break down, in our case since we're drawing characters, the figure into its most fundamental shapes, and then just draw the anatomy and the clothing on top of that. As you can see, even for someone as experienced and amazing as myself, this is my second sketching layer. I think for this case I draw 3. And there you'll see I flipped the canvas because flipping the canvas is a good way to force a new perspective so that you aren't getting that lean effect that's really bad. If you don't flip your canvas when you're drawing, you'll often find that your characters have like a really bad lean on one side, or they're just like unnaturally stretched. So this is my third sketch, and it's the most detailed of them all. Basically the lines I'm drawing now are going to be what I draw over for my final line layer. And I think for this case I actually do a lot of editing because I didn't do a great job at making sure everything's symmetrical, so there is a kind of like weird lean going on the right side, or it's like it's close on the left for some reason, it's like bulging. I'll fix that later on. And for the other characters that are lesser important, I'm just doing like basically one really loose sketch and then one that actually fills in the blanks. And you'll see that I do a lot more characters at the beginning, but I kind of just realized that it wasn't really feasible to draw like 6 characters and make them all fit into the scene and not have it just become a mess. And plus it's like just really time consuming anyway, so 4 is all you really need to get like a crowd anyway. I tried to do like 4 major or kind of different reactions in this one. I have like a big buff guy looking scowling, you know, and then a whatever's going on in the middle there, some sort of like, you know, greed or something, and then curiosity, and then just like contemplation or something. I don't know. 4 different character types that were all easily distinguishable from each other. And I just sort of looked up. Also, something I haven't mentioned yet, I use Pinterest, and I was looking at a Pinterest board the entire time. So like a collection of different images, from like character designs to poses and just color references. If you're a new artist, I would definitely recommend using Pinterest for basically every piece you ever do. I still do, so no shame in it. Yeah, this whole thing, we can kind of skip this. Yeah, so I realized I should just be drawing with lines since that's all I know anyway. Draw the lines on top of it. Typically, I'd go from that sketching layer to just drawing lines, but I tried something new and it didn't really work out. I didn't really know how to make it work without lines and how to make the clarity. You know, like how do I distinguish the fingers from each other? Whatever. I choose a red at the beginning for the hat but I think I changed my mind on that later. So what you'll see here is I'm going on to my shading layer, and so I'll just take a dark cool color, or not a dark cool color, actually like a really saturated color, and then I'll just cover the entire flat color layer in a clipping mask, and then erase out for like the lighting information. So basically just create a single layer on top of the flat color layer, and then just paint it all, set it to multiply, and then erase out where the light should be shining. And then it highlights, of course. And then here I realized that the thumb doesn't really make sense. This is the thing that, oh yeah, and I flipped the canvas and I realized, like, dang, the whole characters doesn't make sense. So I fixed the hat, and I'm gonna fix the torso by adjusting a few lines here and there. I actually think I resketch it and redraw everything, but I'm not sure. Yeah, you don't have to be like this picky about it, but for some reason it like really bothered me. Like those slightest details always get on my nerve. If I see something like slightly wrong, slightly out of order, I have to fix it. Redrawing all the lines. Very fun. Wish I caught that earlier. I would have saved some time. Yeah, I should have had my camera pointed the other way the entire time. But I didn't for some reason. Okay, now it's better. And now I'm adjusting the flat colors. Yay, wonderful. And I have to reshade it. See how that mistake cost me all that work? That's why it takes me so long. Because I jumped the gun on that. See, that's a beneficial thing to know. Learn from my mistakes. Make sure your drawing is actually perfect before you jump into shading and everything, because correcting it will take twice as long. And for this piece, I thought it was really interesting to have the light source be under the character's chin, because that upward lighting is very interesting, very menacing looking. Or at least it's just interesting because it's unnatural. And now I'm just adding like a texture onto everything to give the flat colors some variation. If you'll notice, I'm keeping all of the shading and the textures separate on separate layers. And now I'm drawing a little fire guy, and I'm adding some glow compositing. Yep. And I'm gonna experiment a little bit. I don't think I keep that. In this background, I struggled a lot with what I was gonna do with the background, but eventually I just ended up nixing that starry. So I work on it quite a while. And here I'm drawing my second lines. And something you'll notice I'm doing is a lot of people who are newer artists tend to do a lot of multiple strokes to get for that left arm. It's good to get into the habit of doing one, because it's just cleaner and I don't know, it flows a lot better in my opinion. Also, make sure that the thickest lines are the areas where objects overlap. So you'll see where the belt over the pants, or those collars, or the cuffs over the rest of the shirt. That's where my thickest lines go. Or the chin, for example. I'm kind of jumping I guess for this I did each character one after another, fully rendered them. I don't know. I didn't have to do that, but I guess I just did in this case. I'm adding that single layer of that orange composite that's set to soft light, I think I failed to mention earlier. And here I'm adjusting the shirt color because it didn't work. I should probably just get rid of that background and look at it with the white, see how it's working. I think part of my mistake is I went, because I fully rendered each character on its own, I didn't really get a chance to look at how all of their colors were interacting. So I had to go back and fix a lot of their colors later on after I had done all the shading and whatnot, which is just a pain. I'm adding a rim light, and I'm adding in, that's the glow. Yeah, that glow layer, I'm redoing it because it takes me forever to do anything. I'm handling this character next. I made him look a lot like Johnny Depp for some reason. No. I don't know why. I wish I just did it all at once. Like all the sketching at once, all the coloring. That way it would have been easy for me to track what's going on. Give him like a you know, at least give his arm something to do, right? Yeah, this whole video, even though it's sped up to like 600,000%, it's like 18 minutes long, which tells you that, it gives you an idea of how friggin' long it took me to do this. I was doing this on the car ride home from New York to Michigan. So like on top of, you know, how just drawing in general is difficult. Now you have like a shaky, bumpy car, and then you have lights going through the windshield and everything, blocking your view and obscuring, distorting the colors and whatnot. So yeah, kind of a little impressive. Now I was pretty much copied everything from this character from Android, I think 17. I just found a picture of him on Pinterest, so I just was like, add an ascot and whatever. And he's got the Trunks hair, that ugly haircut. Yeah, I was surprised by how well I did at keeping all the colors. I think I used a lot of a very dull color palette, so it wasn't very difficult for me to make it all work. The duller colors tend to be, the easier it is to merge them together. You don't have to do a whole lot of like whatever color theory. And there I finally fixed the hat. It was kind of cool with that red with the yellow glow on it though. I'm adding a blush to him. And there I painted that purple on top of that flat color layer, and I'm just erasing the light out. Pretty easy. I kind of wish it showed you like what tools I was pressing, because that maybe would help. And as far as the brush I'm just using like the default Procreate brush, so brushes don't really matter. And then the gouache brush for like the gradients and textures and whatnot. I decided to erase that chin out, try and keep his cheekbones wherever that line is. Always use references. Reuse references for the posing, the sketching, for like what clothing ideas you should use, and especially for like shading the face. You're going to want to have a reference on hand, because if you don't, you'll just like do something like cartoony. And there I realized I can use an extra layer of glow, so I just picked a light from the fire flame and I just started painting it on top of the characters. And it adds like an extra dimension, I think. There I start adding more glow to the hand. Something I don't know. I think it works as just drawing as a glow effect, but for black people, their hands tend to be lighter on the inside than the skin tone on the everywhere else. So I should have just drawn that in as part of the texture layer, but I just did it as I just faked it with lighting, I guess. That's fine. Changed the scarf to red and then green. Made it yeah, it's guess. I didn't want too much blue, and I guess that's why I changed that color. And now I'm just doing whatever, and now I'm drawing the boy in. I drew his whole head in, you know, just to make sure it was like made sense. I gave him a Link haircut at the beginning, but then I was like, he looks like way too much like Link, so I changed it. I mess around with his hair for a while. Something you can't really tell, but I put the hair lines on a different layer so that it was just really easy to erase out. And then I gave him that haircut for my character I already had pre-made, and I just was like, whatever, I'm not going to invent a new character for this and try and struggle out a different new haircut. Finding interesting hairstyles that aren't generic that aren't like overly dramatic also is kind of difficult. Again, see, same thing, just paint the single flat layer of shading and then just erase out. Super easy, and it looks dynamic. That gradient layer, and then I'm adding the extra light fluff on there. Oh yeah, I decided to make the fire guy's arm goes up like he's waving like, hello. I'm just sort of experimenting here with the background. Honestly, it kind of looks cool. Again, I was looking at Cloud's references so that I would have an idea of like, you know, interesting cloud shapes that are semi-realistic. I end up getting rid of all this, and then I try something else. You're like, what if all the clouds were like doing a circle thing around them? And this is the final cloud shape I stick with for a hot second. Again, I think this is just a lesson in like, you know, don't be afraid to, like, when you do one thing and it takes a really long time, you're not stuck with it. You can always mess around for a bit. Try new things, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yeah, here we go. And then I was just messing around with the blending layers. I added a simple fade in the background, and then some brush, like a cloud brush to make that dust, and just like a few specks of smoke. Added it in the back and in the front. And then some extra dust layer. Just blurred that. I think I changed all of the shading from multiply to darken, and that's what's going on. And now I'm just sort of messing with how it's composited. Crazy. Alright. So yeah, basically all we did was we sketched out the characters, then we added a flat color layer, and then we added textures onto that flat color layer as a clipping mask, and then shadows, and then we added gradients, as in like yellow gradients from the fire. And that's about it. Super easy. And then we, like, obviously the highlighting and like the specs, and then we added like this flat color background with a soft gradient on it. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.